All right, here we are in another episode of Flipping Houses for Rookies. Good morning,
Good
Peter.
morning, rookies. Good morning, Bill. Good morning,
Here
January.
we are in the new world. Here we are. Episode number 235. Woohoo!
Wow.
Today's podcast is called Additional 12 Ways for Rookies to Convince Sellers to Create Deals Easily. And I might even do a third one because I had a really good time writing these.
Okay.
Peter,
Yeah.
I would like to put a disclaimer on this podcast at this exact moment. What I'm about to read you is not for the fair-skinned or the light-skinned or the thin-skinned people. You are going to have thick skin to hear this and realize that we can get through it together.
Oh, everybody hold hands.
Here we go. Creative real estate investing includes a wide range of acquisitions most don't know exist, but have been used for hundreds of years. The odd part is the newest way we do real estate transactions with realtors has only been around since 1949. Okay, that's when the Realtor Association formed and became licensed. There were realtors before then, but they were considered shylarks, which are dishonest people.
That's so
they've
strange.
only been formed.
That's so weird. You think, oh, they must have been around forever,
No, they've been formed since 1949, and I'm just in the intro here, and we're not going to talk about this a lot, but the reason why the National Realtors Association was formed is because they were considered a scam industry, and they wrote a code of ethics, and the National Association of Realtors on September 13th, 1949 formed so that they can enforce this code of ethics. Now let's get back to the podcast. So I want to go back to that. The odd part is the newest way we do real estate transactions with realtors has only been around since 1949. Yet this new party has attacked our old and traditional way of doing real estate transactions by calling them alternative real estate. This leaving a wide range of extraordinary solutions closed off to some sellers that would jump at the opportunity to get highest sales prices and pay less closing costs, which in turn makes the seller more money. Unfortunately, talking to sellers who know nothing of these solutions is like talking to a drug addict. They actually believe it's best for them.
They need their fix, huh?
They actually believe it's best for them.
Yeah.
Which is why we are doing part 2 of convincing sellers to do creative real estate deals. The words you use in this line of work could keep you poor or make you millions. So grab some paper and pencil and let's dig into what has made more millionaires than anything else on planet Earth for hundreds of years. And now you can have it too.
Hey, Bill, I can attest to that too. I've said this before, but if you haven't heard, the one or two statements I made in the last 3 years, I have my car mechanics. They're older guys. They have their own shop and all that. But one of them was a broker for years and still dabbles. And I told him about lease options. He goes, "Oh yeah, we used to do that all the time."
Yeah.
So I mean, if an old Italian from decades ago says, "Oh yeah, we did all the time," it's not something new. I was surprised, but
I talked to a guy. Same thing I did. I talked to a guy this past week or the week before. I was telling you about it the other day. He's like 70-something years old and used to do real estate back in the 70s and 80s, right? And he was talking about doing subject to deals. They didn't call them subject to deals, but they were doing them and they were getting away with it. And then all of a sudden they got in trouble.
Huh.
And that's when all the hoopla came about. And he's like, he came on board because I just did a big subject to event, like how to how to do subject to deals. I did, as you're aware, Peter, I did an event that nobody has ever done before. And I just commissioned my transcriber to transcribe it, so it'll soon come out, in other places. I'm going to write a book about it.
Yeah.
So it's going to be amazing. Anyways, back to the podcast. You ready for this, Peter? You're going to like this.
I'm ready, Bill. I'm ready, Bill.
Ready? Arthur Brisbane. Arthur Brisbane. Yeah, so he was in 1925, I believe, a Buffalo, New York newspaper editor.
Okay.
Once said, he's famous for this. The dictionary is the only place where success comes before work.
Okay, that's a good one.
The dictionary is the only place where success comes before work.
Go, Arthur.
And today, I don't want to belittle work 1 second by saying this creative real estate stuff is easy. Let me see. Good morning, Jamie. God bless you too. In this podcast, number 200, let me see. I got backed up. I got lost there. And today I don't want to belittle work 1 second by saying that creative real estate is easy. This stuff is easy. But instead would like to focus your attention on doing specialized work for bigger, quicker, and more predictable results.
Yeah.
So work is good. It's the developed work that acts like, extra traffic. It's like you think you're working, but are you really? In other words, are you getting the results? Is this work going to produce the results you want? Right? Or do you just feel busy and feel like your time is not in abundance, right? Because you're so busy doing everything. But then when you actually extrovert or pull yourself out of your life and you look at it, you start looking at what are the results, right?
Yeah, well, sometimes you got to pull yourself out of the business and look at it. So Ron LeGrand calls it working on your business, not in your business. Like you have to take a step back and look at what's going on. How's it working out for me here?
Yeah. So I think Ron LeGrand got that from Michael Gerber in the E-Myth. So, but yes, we definitely did hear it from him.
I heard it from, You go way back further than me. You must be older than me.
Oh my God, Peter. I was on my computer, I think on Sunday, and I shut the computer and I said to my wife, would you take my computer away from me, please? She goes, what's the matter? I was on eBay buying books. Oh my God. Books from the 40s and the 50s. I'm at it again. So real estate books. I bought on eBay Ron LeGrand. It doesn't even sound like Ron LeGrand because he's like, right? 1994 or 1995, he was doing a seminar on how to sell information marketing. And he had Robert Allen there. He had Dan Kennedy there. He had some big names.
Wow.
And I bought that and I've been listening to it in the car and it's been fascinating. Anyways, in podcast number 234, which is the one before this, which was 12 ways for rookies to convince sellers to do creative real estate deals easily, we talked about the 12 strategies, which I kind of nicknamed some of them, and you can go back and listen to them. But those 12 strategies are: 1, taking the high road; 2, making more deals with less effort; 3, the most unsexiest secret to get deals that work; 4, being a pro investor without any training; 5, the dog treatment method, which was taught to me by Ben Settle, which is almost like cheating, the dog treat method. Right?
Speaking of which, guess who's here today?
The dog.
The dog.
Oh.
Yeah. Living circumstances have changed. So the dog is now here. She's sleeping quietly on the chair right outside my door with all the curtains closed. But if anybody comes a knocking, you'll be hearing her. I'll hold my mic down, but apologize in advance.
Good. Number 6, don't try and eat an elephant all in one bite. Number 7, be a nosy bitch. I like that one best. Number 8, wear your offer goggles at the right time. Wear your offer goggles at the right time. Number 9, scare the hell out of your seller. And that's more of a metaphor than anything else. Number 10, use the Pepsi challenge to close deals. Number 11, threaten their families. And that's a metaphor as well.
Because we don't really mean threaten their families.
Well, we do in their own mind, but it's really when you pull out of a deal. And number 12, use Harry Potter's magic wand. And those were the things that we covered. So if you haven't heard them, if you've not heard this podcast, please go listen to it. It is an essential tool for doing creative real estate transactions. So I'd like to explain something. Good morning, John. I'd like to just say something here that's it's a personal thing to me, but I want you, if I explain it, then you'll understand. So when you have to do what I have to do, which is gather all this information and literally like write a podcast, a 90-minute podcast every week. I write 1 or 2 emails a day. Plus I've been writing books, right? I have a whole line of books that are going to come out. Like for example, I'm writing a book. I have a book on how to do lease options, which is, I think last time I looked, it was 400 pages, and it's a big book. It's like 11 by 17.
Large size paper.
Yeah.
Huh.
So my point is that what's happened on this podcast is as we go further and further into the podcast, I learn how to, because I say it so much and because I write it so much and because I talk to so many people, because I communicate between the podcast and my emails and my phone calls. I talk to 7,000 to 8,000 people a week minimally, except during Christmas I didn't do that. But so I hear a lot of things. My point and I'm not bragging, but my point is that after a while, I get better at saying things. I get better at explaining things because as I talk to people, especially one-on-one, I notice things that resonate with them. It's the way I'm saying them. It's not the way they're listening. So what you'll notice is as you go through the podcast, I keep getting better and better at communicating how some of these things are. Right. So when I say that that these couple podcasts, and I actually think I'm going to do another one next week, and then I think I want to turn it all into a book, okay? Because these are really essential tools for creating real estate training. I know I've probably said that in the past because I'm a marketing guy, and of course every podcast is like the best, right? Because that's what I do. So the point is that these really are tools. I put a lot of thought into these tools, and I really spent some time in the last couple weeks writing these so that they're concise and easy to understand and not have the long, drawn out droning that I'll do about all the theory behind them. I'm just like giving them to you. Yeah. And then you can think with them yourself. Okay.
Well, that's what happens when you teach. The more you teach, the better you teach because you have so much feedback. It's really simple. If you pay attention, if you listen, which you do, you get a lot of feedback from people. So
And because of that, Peter, is the reason why I've been on this rampage lately to go out and study your seller, because it's the same thing with them. If you have to go teach your seller what you know about creative real estate from whatever you listen to here, or one of my courses or books or anybody else, Bigger Pockets or any one of those other places, by virtue of you having to explain it to your seller, you're going to realize you're going to get better at it because you have to teach it to somebody else now. All right. Yep. So if you have listened, if you have listened to episode number 234, you should go listen to it again. Okay. Because as you and I have learned through some study material, right, the number of times over the material only gives you proper application and better certainty.
Yeah.
Right. So the more times you listen to something, the better off you are. I mean, Ben Settle says he listens to things 10 times. He'll go through courses 10 times.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I'm reading a book that I read at least once or twice before, and it's like, this is great, and look at that line. A line jumps out at you because it's so pertinent to you right now. So repetition is like anything, physical, mental, repetition, music, sports.
I think it's a little bit more profound than that, Peter. It's time changes everything.
Yeah.
So where before you might have been reading about, how the seller will do ABC, and you've never seen that before, and now you're reading the book, and all of a sudden the seller did that to you 3 weeks ago. It's a lot more impertinent to you that you read that. So time changes everything, right?
Oh yeah, your experience. Yeah, right now, what's important to you today?
Yeah,
and some things will jump out at you more because you need it now. You need it now.
Exactly. And the only time you actually need anything or you'll absorb the data is when you're trying to do something and you're trying to solve the problem of how can I get this product or how can I get this done?
Yeah.
Sometimes that problem is served to you from the environment or from your surroundings. And sometimes you create it, but either way, it's always something that is going to help you forward. All right. Yep. Anyways, enough of that. Now let's get down to business.
Yeah.
And do today's 12 ways. So here we go.
Number one.
Are you ready, Peter?
Ready. Is this 1 or 13?
This is number 1.
Okay.
Hypnotizing the sellers.
Okay.
And I'm talking about doing this like a trial lawyer does when he has a jury in front of him in his case.
Yeah.
You need to hypnotize them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on podcast number 234, I spoke very strongly about not needing to learn and know everything you don't have, even if you don't have the expectations of closing the seller.
Mm-hmm.
So let me do that again. Now, on podcast number 234, I spoke very strongly about not needing to learn and know everything if you don't have the expectations of closing the seller to do a transaction with you in one visit.
Right.
Okay. By the way, Peter, take this note. This is very important. This is a basic fundamental axiom or law that I live by. This is one of my core beliefs. Okay. Frustration is a function of expectation.
That's
and
right.
You know this because you've heard me say this many times.
Yeah, I've lived it.
Frustration is a function of expectation, which means simply change your expectation and you'll be less frustrated. So basically your expectations, what you expect or what you so desire to attain, excuse me, is only that's in your zone of control.
Right.
Now, don't be too quick to change your expectations. Like, I want to do 5 deals this month, and the second week you're like, this is never going to happen, and you change your expectations. Mm-hmm. Because the next rule I follow after that, which I didn't write down here, is being tenacious. Like going at it and only expecting you're going to get those 5 deals. Mm-hmm. and not compensating or belittling or minimizing that thought. Just have total knowingness that it's going to happen. In fact, what I do is I say to myself, gee, this is going to be funny how it plays out. I wonder how this is going to happen.
Right. You don't always know.
Because I know that my power of decision and my power of choice supersedes everything. Now, what I don't do is I don't put a lot of emphasis on it. I don't dwell on it. I just bloop, put it there. I need to make $1,000 by the end of the week. Bloop, done. And I stop thinking about it. I just know that my choice is clarified. I know why it's the greatest good for the greatest number involved, and I just do it.
Yeah.
Right. So I know that thoughts are senior to everything else, right? I mean, everything that we have in this world came from a thought.
Yeah.
Right? The physical universe could not exist without us thinking or without us having images of what we wanted. Right?
Yeah, we put it all there.
So I use those two datums in tandem, back and forth. Frustration is a function of expectation. And I expect, almost demand, without force, without any kind of weirdness, just a clean, straightforward thought. This is what I want. No, that's not what I say. I say, I'm going to have $1,000 by Friday at 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just let it be.
Yeah.
I don't try to force it. I don't try to figure out the logistics of it. I don't counter that thought with, I wonder how that's going to happen. Because that's another thought that takes away from the first thought.
As soon as you think that, you're saying maybe not.
Right. So I don't do that. It's just like, I'm gonna get that thought. I'm gonna get $1,000 by Thursday at 3.
So I'm thinking
Friday at 3, or whatever it is.
Yep. So I'm thinking of the two things you said and how they can work, because I can see people go, well, how can you do both of those? So the way I'm seeing it in my own mind, which helps me think it through, like, you can have an expectation and you can be tenacious about it, but doesn't mean your expectation has to happen all at once. Like the first visit in the house, you buy it. So you can have like, I'm going to get it, but like, well, let me just do this piece right now, like biting the elephant, then a little more biting the elephant. If you expect it all at once, you could screw it up. Now, if it happens, fine. So you can still be tenacious, right? And not have it happen this instant, but, a day or two later or next week, and there it is.
Yeah, so my point here, thank you for bringing this up because I got sidetracked. So my point here is that if you have the expectation that you want to do your deal in one visit, then what comes in after that is you will spend endless amounts of money and time and effort to educate yourself on anything and everything that could happen in that 1 hour visit. Where what I'm telling you to do is just make that 1 hour visit, the first 1 hour visit, a discovery process. And have the expectation that you're going to learn from it, that this is valuable to your education. This is the most valuable thing you can be doing at this point in time for your real estate career. Right? So what we do is we have the discovery visit with the seller. We find out what's needed and wanted. Find out what's needed and wanted from who? The seller. So do you need to be a genius to do this? No. All you have to do is you have to say, what would have to happen for me to buy a house today? And then you could just follow it up and say, what would you like me to do about that?
Yeah.
Right? So, Peter, what would have to happen for me to buy your house today? I want all cash, right? That's what they're going to say.
Well, sure. They start with, I want everything. All the money right now. Thank you.
So I want all cash. And then you say, Peter, what would you like me to do about that?
Well, can you pay my full asking price, like, all cash right now?
So basically you want me to overpay for this property because normally people that pay all cash have a closing cost, 13 to 15% or 12 to 15%. So you're asking me to pay 12 or 15% over your asking price.
What?
See what I mean?
Yeah, what?
Okay.
Yeah.
So find out what was needed and wanted, right? And then stroll off. Just kind of hit the door. But I have a very strong piece of advice for you.
Yeah.
Write down what they say verbatim. Word for word, syllable by syllable. And before you leave, read that list back to them to make sure you have it correctly. So, Peter, let me see if I get this straight. If I give you all cash and close within 30 days, you'll sell the house to me, right?
Oh, sure.
Okay. Now you can leave because you know what to do. Now you can go do your research. You could go figure out how to do a slot deal. Or more importantly, forget about a slot deal, how to do an option deal and sign them up much like a realtor. So just sign an option agreement with them instead of doing an agreement for 6 months like a realtor would do an agreement with them for 3 months and then go see if you can sell the house.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've got a friend of mine right now that has a condo in Florida, right? And I know his number's too high, and I've told him multiple times he just can't hear me. He's got earplugs in. I'm going to get it. It's this, it's that, first unit, end unit, garage, furnished. He thinks all these they're values to him, but they may not be values to the public or to the
buyer.
The market.
Yeah.
So what did I do? I do much like what a realtor does. I put it on the market, I put it on Zillow, and I have it advertised, and I'm poking around with it, and we'll see what happens. It's been 2 months, and we've had 5 phone calls. 4 of them were realtors.
Oh, you're doing it for him?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what I told him I would do.
Okay.
All right. Then once you find out what's needed and wanted, you wrote it down, you give it back to the seller. This is what you said, right? This is, so if I do blah, 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 then you'll sell me the house, right? Yeah. Okay. Then you say to them, I'm going to go do my homework. I'm going to go figure out how to do this. They will appreciate that. You don't need to have all these special words and all these, all this stuff that people think that I have that they need. All this experience. Get your own experience because it's the only way you're going to learn.
Yeah.
Right? Now, here's what happens, Peter. You return a day or two later with a superior presentation. And I don't mean like a presentation, like a PowerPoint presentation, but you come back and say, here's what I can do for you. This is my proposal or my offer, right? So you use this superior presentation full of solutions that will help overcome the seller's problems and obstacles. Once you know what's needed and wanted, it's like being handed treats for a dog. Right? No more stubbornness calling the dog or reluctance from the dog. You just say, you want a treat? And it's their favorite treat, and they come running, right? This is what it's like with your sellers. Once you come back with solutions and the superior presentation of all the things that they want because they told you what they wanted because you asked the right question, right? It's like the dog with the treat. Like, oh my God, and they'll come running because it's the dog's favorite treat.
Well, the seller's looking for something. If you know what they're looking for and you say you've got it, why wouldn't they do it?
Right.
But you have to know what that is.
Right.
Because, our problem is we always think we know what they're thinking.
Right.
Right?
Right.
We think, he's got to sell it because blah, 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 blah.
Or they'll ask and they'll misunderstand their answer. So that's why you give it back to them. Right.
Yeah, and I've seen you do that in a house. You ask them, so let me get this straight. Just like you said,
right.
You say that, let me get this straight.
Right.
So blah, blah, blah. And I've seen the guy say, no, not really.
Right.
Well, what is it then? Because sometimes they may not know, right? They're saying things and they don't sit and think it through. I want to sell the house. Like they sit there and analyze their own. They don't. So you might have to ask a couple of times.
85% or more of the time when I'm in a house, I'm helping them sort out what they really want.
Huh.
Right.
Yeah.
Now here's the thing. They will want what you have to offer more than anything else because you're the only one making an offer like this. And you didn't need to get a Harvard or Yale education to learn this either. All you needed to do was just this first step, which is hypnotize the sellers. In the car business, we called this taking them off the market. In the car business, you would walk in and the cars advertise $20,000 everywhere else. Everybody, every dealership has this car. Say it's a brand new car for $20,000, and the payments will say $500 a month. And the buyer comes in and says, "I want to pay $18,000 and I want to pay $300 a month." And there's no way they can do this. It's just physically impossible. But the seller believes they can. So you say to the seller, the dealership says to the buyer, are you ready to buy today? Oh, no, I'm just doing research. Or I'm not ready, or I got to bring my wife back, or I have to go get my, whatever. At that point, the dealer takes the buyer off the market. And he says, well, I could do that deal with you, I think. So when you get ready, come back and see me. So now the buyer's got in his head, they're going to pay 18 grand and 300 a month. Now he goes to all the other dealers that can't do that. They're like, I don't know how this guy can do that. Yeah. You should go buy the car there. Now you got the other dealer saying to him, I don't know how I could sell it to you for 18 grand. It cost me 19 grand. I'm not going to sell for $1,000 less than what I owe it for. And there's no way you could pay $300 a month. It's mathematically impossible. So the other dealer saying you should go back and buy that. You should go to the other dealer and tell him to do it. So not only is the seller a magnet, but the buyer is getting convinced from all the other competition that he should go buy the car from him. And then when he comes back, he gets the surprise.
What happens then? How's the story end?
He gets the surprise. Right?
So
there you go. So it's called taking the seller out of the market, right? So it's just something to know. All right, let's move on to number 2. Right? Say yes to the no's.
Okay.
Say yes to the no's. This sounds almost counterintuitive, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sounds backwards.
Yeah. If you give sellers permission to say no, you'll notice a big difference. If you don't do this, the seller goes on defense and digs their heels in. Which is why I have my 7 strategies. This is how it came about, right? I keep moving up the strategy scale.
The different deal strategies.
Right. And if you go to flippinghousesforrookies.com, you can go to the top right that says free page, or just go to free page, or on the very first page it says creative deal making 101. Just opt in there, put your name and email address in there, and you can get them all there too. But you could see the 7 deal strategies and the percentages of equity based on how much equity they have is where you can start, and you work your way up the scale, kind of like in hierarchy. Right?
Yep.
So if you allow the person to say no, it's okay, because you just move up to the next offer.
Yeah, well, what good is fighting a person? I mean, I learned this just in conversations, probably from you and all the things we have to do here just to talk to sellers. It works so good with people and wives. Somebody says, well, I don't believe that. And you go, well, why not? Well, don't fight them on it. I go, well, I wouldn't believe it either. But did you know such and such? Why fight them? It's like in jiu-jitsu and all that stuff. Somebody's coming at you. You don't push them. You let it go and then do something else. Why fight them? They're only going to put their hands up.
Oh my goodness. I read something about that the other day. So you welcome the inflow and leave with the outflow, or something like that. You know what I mean? Just what you said in jiu-jitsu. So that motion's coming at you. Use that motion to your advantage and get them on the mat.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. Don't fight it. It's gonna just ball up in front of you.
So regardless if the seller says no, you could just move up the 7 strategies and keep moving up the scale, right? This opens the seller's mind up to how much you want to help them. Plus, at any time, you just simply ask, just like I said before, what would have to happen for me to buy your house today? Now the seller is likely to sell themselves on giving you what they want. Now you just matchmake their offer to one of my 7 strategies and start talking about that. Right? Like I said to you before, I want all cash in 30 days. Okay, I'll sign an option agreement with you. You're not going to tell them that, but you say, I'll sign an option agreement with you. I'll go market the house. I'll bring it to the market. Because what that does is that puts you in a position of when things change, because time changes everything. You have a signed document with them, and they're going to want to know what to do. They're going to come to you for advice. So you want to be there when they humble.
Right. So you can take the option and sell the house for the price he's asking. If the market says yes, then it's fine. But if nobody will pay it, is that the point? Like nobody will pay it. He sees that and he has to change his mind himself because it's not real.
Right.
But
so
if you're in a contract with him, so he can't say go away. He has to work like a realtor. Right. They promise the world, and next thing you know, the price drops. I'm sorry, but you got a contract. You can't go away. But it's also reality. You can ask what you want, but doesn't mean you're going to get it.
To your point, Peter, what I'm saying is that you can always negotiate something.
Mm-hmm.
If the guy's asking 200, you can see if he'll take 195. Now you got $5,000 to play with, and that's your fee for finding the seller and the buyer and putting them together.
Right.
So you can always negotiate. So you have a deal. I mean, who wouldn't on this podcast want to list a property and do some showings just like a realtor would do? Except the difference is that when you're using an option agreement, you have an equity share in the property, and you could sell it without having a license.
Right.
Because that's the way the options work, right?
Mm-hmm.
So go to flippinghousesforrookies.com and go into the creative real estate, deal making 101, and it's all in there for free. You can see how that works, right? So the point is that you have a solution for them.
Yeah.
So many people listen to this podcast and think the only way that you could do a deal with us or our way is to pay monthly and not pay all cash. Well, you can pay all cash if you can go find a buyer that's willing to do that.
Mm-hmm.
There's only 4 places to get money for real estate. The bank, and they want you to think they have all the money. The hard money lender, who's a bank in disguise. The private lender, who is like the person that has IRAs or retirement money or other real estate with equity or credit cards with low balances or business doing really well and they'll lend you money. Or the buyer. So if you've got no dough and you've got no credit and you got a seller that's being a hard ass that wants all their money in 30 days, just go find the buyer and get paid for it.
Yep.
You make $3,000, $5,000. You just don't put a lot of time into it. This is not a rehab where you're going to put 800 hours into it and you need to make 30, 40 grand to get your money back.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But wouldn't it be better to put a few hours into a deal like this instead of paying $5,000 to learn how to do it?
Right.
Learn exactly. As you go.
Or take that
even for twice as long. Who cares? You're learning how to do it and making money instead of paying somebody to learn about it. Come on.
Exactly.
Come on.
And like you said, take that $3,000 or $5,000 and go buy some advanced education or more marketing or more books or whatever.
Yeah, use it to bootstrap yourself up, which apparently you can't. You can't lift yourself up by your own bootstraps because you're on the ground. My son explained that to me yesterday. It was a mistake, but I take it back.
Bootstrap yourself?
Yeah, you lift you up by your own bootstraps. What happens if you pull bootstraps when you have boots on? Nothing. You're on the ground. You're in your own boots. You're going to fly in the air. It's a funny thing that people say. I'm used to saying it. So I have to take it back now.
It's figuratively. You don't have to take it back. Maybe he's just being too literal.
No, there's some old story.
Number 3, Peter. Number 3.
Yeah.
The pimply faced nerd gets the beauty queen.
I love that movie.
Imagine this nerd not only gets a date from this beauty, but she calls him multiple times per day because she can't get enough of him. Why, his buddies ask, is this happening? What did you do? His buddies want to know, right? 1, he stopped caring if he got no's. What is that noise?
Oh, sorry. It's my cup.
Oh.
Boy, it picks up things. Sorry.
1, he stopped caring if he gets no's and was not needy about it. He could care less if she said yes or no.
Oh, it's like he has no chance anyways, so go ask. What do you got to lose? You're starting with 0.
Ready for this one? Number 2, when making out with her, and she wants to go further, he would stop and go home.
Gee.
And number 3, if on the phone with her, would abruptly end the call to go do something more important to him.
Like play a video game.
Right?
Yeah.
There is something magical about when sellers know you don't need their house, their money, or transaction. This is the ultimate reluctant buyer.
Mm-hmm.
And when this happens currently, it will be like a 9-year-old kid watching a magic show for you. It's like, oh, wow. Good morning, Desiree. When you see a 9-year-old kid watching a magic show, he's like inundated, right? He's like, oh my God, how did he do that?
Yeah.
That's how this will be if you're the pimply little faced nerd that gets the beauty queen.
Where do you come up with these things?
Right? It's true though, isn't it?
Yeah, it happens sometimes.
Number 4, the Dr. Seuss Method.
What's this one?
Create a vision while telling stories. This is one of my single most reliable ways to close deals. Because the right person, I'm sorry, I'm going to get that. I said that wrong because I had attention on something. Because of the right brief story, you can pry open the most closed-minded seller and change the way they are thinking. But they're the right stories, and they're focused to the right things, and they make a point. Without lecturing, right? Without giving a seminar, without arguing, or unwanted confrontation.
Yeah.
All your story has to be is wired to illustrate the outcome the seller desires. And then back it up with facts. In fact, this is the dog trick I spoke of earlier in our presentation. Okay, so if you're doing what I ask you to do, you go in and do a discovery call or a discovery appointment the first time, find out what's needed and wanted, and you come back with a presentation, which is all theory on how you can help them, which, by the way, that presentation is a 2-part presentation. Never forget this. It's a 2-part presentation.
Yeah.
One is you have to appeal to their emotions. There's a human side to every transaction. Then you need to follow it up with mathematics, the deal structure.
Right.
And too often, investors have this false idea or fake idea that they need to impress the seller with mathematical solutions, aka deal structuring, first to get their attention. And it's not. You need to get their attention on the human side of things first. You need to make them feel comfortable so they trust you. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, why would somebody that doesn't even know me in the first 20 minutes on the phone accept the fact that I'm going to take over their mortgage payments of $1,600 a month for the next 5 years? They haven't even seen my face. They don't even know what I look like.
Sure.
Why would they do that?
Well, they wouldn't have trust or confidence in you that soon.
Now, pay attention to this, Peter, because we talked about this last night on my Deal Hunting Monthly Mastery. If you're calling for sale by owners, right?
Yeah.
you're asking them to change their expectation of I'm getting $200,000. Although it's a little unrealistic that they're getting 200, they're probably going to get 170 or 180, but that's another story for another day. You're changing their expectation of I'm going to get $200,000 in the next 30 days. And I'm going to go do this. Right? That's their expectation as a for sale by owner. You come along and you say to them, how about if I pay you monthly and not give you a guarantee that I'm actually going to close?
Perfect. Sign me right up.
Right?
Sure.
That's what we're doing. Right?
Yeah.
So how do you handle that? All these things I'm talking about, this is why I say your words can either make you poor or make you a millionaire. Because if you know how to handle that, if you know how to make them feel like this is the best thing since sliced bread without faking it, you have to attend to their emotions as well as the mathematical side of it, the deal structuring side of it. So what happens is, as I deal with the emotional side of it, when I was teaching my deal hunting monthly mastery class last night, I kept saying to them, because we were on Facebook looking for houses, right? And I show them how I do it. It's real simple. It's real easy, but it's an amazing little system because you can find sellers in 15 minutes a day. In fact, I was being a little harsh and I said to them, you could sit on the crapper and do this and then go about your day. Because if you're on the toilet, you can actually do this while you're sitting on the toilet. So don't tell me you don't have time, because you could do it that simply. Right? At least to get this conversation started. And then as you go throughout the day, you answer questions and do whatever. Right. So even if you have no time, you got 15 kids and 13 jobs and, five different sets of parents you have to take care of and got to go to the grocery store in between, you could still do this. Okay. So my point is that you just need to take the stance of understanding that you're trying to change the seller's expectation. They're looking to get $200,000. You come along and say, I'll give you $1,500 a month, and I'll see if you can pay. I'll pay it until I can pay you off. But there's often there's not a clarified date, and it's a promise to appear. You can duck out anytime you want. Unless you take the deed, then that's a different story. But so take that position, take that stance of you talking to that person and thinking what they're thinking in their head. Like, why should I do this? What are the benefits to me? Why would I want to wait for my money? And that's where we come up with the benefits. Like, you get more money, you pay less closing costs. We take care of the property. There's a lot of benefits, but you have to explain these things to them so that they tame their nervousness or anxiety about, well, if I give this person this house, how are they going to handle it? Right?
It's interesting how you said expectation, because you started a while ago talking about our expectations when we go to the house, what we expect to happen. Now you're talking about his. Right. So have a look at, like, how do we deal with our own expectation? Like, put yourself in his shoes. He's got these expectations and you're trying to, like, undo that. And you can't do that too fast and just bluntly. And you have to replace it with something that is as good or better. Right? Yeah.
Well, you got to bribe them. You got to bribe them. It's an ethical bribe. You got to bribe them somehow to be able to let you do this.
I like when you call it benefits better.
Okay, good. So all your story has to do is be wired to to illustrate the outcome that the seller desires.
Mm-hmm.
Then you use facts. So you're going to use this story to appeal to their emotional side of the deal, and then back it up with facts. That's where the deal structuring comes in. You use math. Right?
Yeah.
That's the dog treat trick. So when they see the money they're going to make, because really at the end of the day, Peter, what are we really, really, really doing with our sellers? We're taking them from a normal Tom, Dick, or Harry and we're turning them into a professional investor.
You know, weird you say this. Sometimes I've talked to people on the phone and said to them something along the lines of, are you an investor? Would you like to be an investor? Something like, some people really go out of the way to try to get a house so they own a house so they can be an investor. You have one, and you can turn your house into an investment. Would you be interested in doing that? Because you're so right. You're just taking them from just dumping something, which the money stops. You get the money, but it stops. Or being an investor where there's money flow, a little more money, and being a little bit patient, waiting a little bit, you get more. Because, there has to be some exchange. If you wait more, you get more. If you don't, you get less.
So technically, you're going to take their investment that they have in this house, which is AKA their profit. We call that equity in real estate.
Yeah.
And you're going to show them how they can turn that into a residual or passive income, so that they can do what they want in life. It will make their life a little bit easier. So the story would be, what if I can make you, $400 a month? You don't have any landlord obligations, and I take care of all the problems. Yeah. So and here's the mental image picture. You become the bank. And then follow that up with, well, you have a mortgage now, right? Yeah. Okay. Do you call them when the toilet's clogged? No. Do you call them to plow the driveway? No. Do you call them to get the grass cut? No.
Oh.
Well, that's the position you're going to be in when I get done with you.
Yeah.
Right? That's telling a story that has a ending that is very clear, and they can see how it's going to be.
Yep.
By the way, let's just get this off my chest. The reason why we call it the Dr. Seuss Method is because I watched with my grandson The Grinch over Christmas. And that's what Dr. Seuss does. Is he's great at illustrating that, you have expectations, what's going to happen. Right? And he puts a few little bumps in there to make it fun.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's what we're trying to do. Right? Number 5. This is a Ben Settle statement that he got from somebody else, so I'm not taking credit for this, but I am going to use it.
Yeah.
Let the skeleton dance.
Let the skeleton dance.
Having flaws are what most say are skeletons in the closet. I say take that skeleton out and make it dance in front of your seller.
First, skeletons.
Yours.
Oh, yours. Oh, okay.
First, you stick out like a sore thumb because they're like, I can't believe he's telling me this. It's a negative thing against him. Second, it makes you human and much closer to how your seller is, because the seller probably has similar stories than what you're telling them.
Yeah.
Or her. They make mistakes too, and will be compassionate about if you don't try to hide it.
That's so counterintuitive, because people think you have to go in there and impress them on how smart you are and how much money you've made, and look at my Mercedes outside. And you're saying, now, how do you do this? How and when do you do this? So you're not just like, look how stupid I am.
Right. So let me finish this other paragraph, and then I'll give you examples. The seller is always, always, always looking for it's too good to be true shoe drop.
Yeah.
This is too good to be true. Where's the shoe going to drop? So drop the shoe up front and talk pros and cons.
Right.
So a perfect place for this for most of our listeners right now is this. This is my first deal. I've never talked to a seller before. Now watch this. You ready?
Yeah.
This is freaking magical. I've never talked to a seller before. This is my first time. Can you help me?
Yeah. Said the version.
Will you help me?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
John is saying you'll lease for a boat and a goat. I'm not sure what he's talking about. And I'll buy here or there. I'm not sure what he's talking about. In any event, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right. So this is right after taking this, it's taking the skeleton out of the closet. It's not being afraid of your mistakes or your transgressions or even that it's your first time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would go as far as, you know what? I'm new to this and I'm actually here to learn about sellers. I'm here to see if I can help you in any way. And this is magical. I'm going to talk about this a little bit later. I'm going to say to them, look, if we could put something together, that's great. Otherwise, we could just part as friends. So let me see what I can do. It's going back to episode number 234, where you have extraordinary seller customer service.
Right.
You just try to help them as much as you can. I mean, what does the person on your cell phone service in customer service get? They get their paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
So they help you. How many people do they help? For a paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
So your paycheck for helping sellers right now is not having to pay for an education that's $5,000, $10,000, $25,000, $50,000. That's your paycheck. So go out and work for your pay. Study sellers. Go out and do a discovery call and use these things that right now we've got 24 of them, and next week we'll probably have another 12. We'll see what happens. Mm-hmm. And use these philosophies. This is what you should study as these podcasts, and just go out there and be you. Just be you. Don't be me. Be you.
Yeah.
Number 6. Pull out the rug. If the seller feels they have the upper hand, mostly when you call them first, they say, well, you called me, what's your offer?
Yeah.
Now we talked about this in the Subject to event, which was important, and I think it might have got glossed over because of all the other magical things we were talking about. But here's the deal. People calling you gives you a better negotiating hand than you calling people.
Yeah.
So if you're doing for sale by owner calls, you have a lesser of a negotiation edge than if they call you. So if you could do marketing like I've done for so many years, and it's just recently, and this the last couple of years that we've been calling for sale by owners, if you send out yellow letters and you send out signs and you send out all these things and they call you, you have a better negotiating edge because they've called you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're calling a for sale by owner and they say, well, you called me, what's your offer? You need to pull the rug out from underneath them. Here's how. Negotiation law number 1. In fact, it's not only law number 1, it's the only thing you need to know about negotiating. The only thing, as far as I'm concerned, people have written books and there's gurus and there's days and days and days worth of conversation about negotiating, and it's all null unless you know this.
Mm-hmm.
This one and only hard, fast negotiating tactic. Ready?
Yeah.
The person who wants it the least has the most power.
Yep.
The person who wants it the least has the most power.
Mm-hmm.
When you withdraw and use the reluctant buyer maneuvers, it will cause the deal to die, which means it wasn't a deal anyways, or the seller will backpedal and try to reel you back in. So if I say to you, which you've heard me say so many times, Peter, oh, Peter, you want all cash for your house in 30 days? What do I say?
I don't think I'm your guy.
I'm not your buyer. I don't think I'm in the wrong room.
Yeah.
That's pulling a rug out from underneath them. How about this one? Well, and I get this a lot lately, especially because it seems like the market is flooded with multifamily houses from all the old timers trying to cash out before the market changes, and they're going to get all their equity and move on and retire. So there's a lot of multifamilies on the market right now, and I'm talking to many of them. Okay, they have undesirable expectations, but they're on the market. Right? So it starts off with, well, you called me. What's your offer? Well, is the house for sale? That's the first question. Is the house for sale? Well, not really, but I figured you sent me a letter and I would hear what you had to say. And then they'll often say, and this is a trigger, everything's for sale for the right price.
I hate that comment.
So my rebuttal to that is, well, let's role play it for a second.
Yeah.
Okay, because I want to do it naturally.
Yep.
So, Peter, is the house for sale?
Well, everything's for sale for the right price.
Oh, okay. So I'm not your right guy because I don't play that game.
I like that.
Basically, here's what happens. I've bought a lot of houses and I've helped a lot of people. I will overpay for your house and give you what you want if you give me favorable terms. If you let me pay monthly until I can get you paid off based on my criteria, then we'll do that. Or you need to give me a deep discount if it's not one of those two things, because the only two ways you or I can make money on real estate is to buy low, sell high, which is equity or your profit, or to have cash flow. So you need to give me one or the other or both. Otherwise, we can't do a transaction. So what do you think, Peter? Right? That's pulling the rug out from underneath them.
Yeah, because what they're saying is completely unrealistic. Who's stupid enough to do that? I like another. I've also heard you say this one, like it maybe further into the thing when they're coming up with weird numbers. You go like, well, would you do that?
Yeah.
Right. How much you want for the house? 500,000. Says, okay, would you pay that?
Yeah. If you were in my shoes, start off. If you were in my shoes, would you do this deal?
Yeah.
And get them to look at it. Okay?
Yeah.
So when you withdraw and use reluctant buyers, so what did I do? I started off with a withdrawal. Well, I'm not your guy because I don't do that. And I like draw a long line in the dirt. And either they hang up with me and they say, "Oh, okay, I'm glad you told me that. I'm glad you called." They thank me for being blunt.
Yeah.
And not wasting their time.
And you say, I don't play that game?
Yeah.
I like that.
Or they say, well, how does it work? How much a month were you thinking? How does it work?
So after you pull the rug, say, I'm not going to do it. I don't do that. You say, here's what I do, right? That's what you did next. Here's what I do. I either do this or I do that. I do equity, I do cash flow, or I do both. And if we can do that, we can do something. Otherwise, I'm not. So you did show them what you could do after you said you won't, but here's what I could do. Pick one. So you pedal back in.
The point is that I then, and within 3 or 5 minutes, I've handled this seller that he's either a complete suspect and he goes in the follow-up system and we drip on him.
Yeah.
Or I continue to have a conversation with him, but on the right terms.
Right.
Which, by the way, what did I just do in that paragraph or that little skit that I gave you? I did the Dr. Seuss method. I told him a story of what I do in a short, concise manner that was very pictorial in his mind, and he got it. It was very clear.
Yeah.
No clatter or clutter. Right? Yep. Does this make sense?
Absolutely.
I'm not too profound here today, am I?
Well, what I like about this example, you just said something extremely real, because I've heard that too. And if you listeners, you guys haven't heard this, you will. And you just gave a very good answer, because otherwise we go, and that's not a good answer. Well, right. So, I'm not your guy. Because we're thinking, what clever thing should I say? And the clever thing is the freaking truth. Like, I don't do that. Right? It's the truth. It's not a game. You're actually honest with the guy. But then you gave him a chance. Here's what I do.
You can either be on offense or defense. You can be proactive or reactive.
Yep.
That's me being proactive, which we talked about a few weeks ago.
And I've heard that defense never works.
Yeah, it's reactive.
Yeah.
Number 7, how to be an offerholic stud.
Wait a minute. What? Wait a minute now, Bill. Go back up. What was that word you used?
We went to the casino the other day, Peter and I, and it was the first 15-minute conversation in the car. His poor wife. How to be an offerholic stud. Once you have the seller emotionally hooked, which means that you figured out that they're motivated, from number 4, the Dr. Seuss method, which we just spoke about, which is telling stories, back it up with mathematical proof.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, show how others like them have used these methods with you or with my stories. You can use my stories that were favorable results similar to what the seller's looking to get. Success stories from the past could also do this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think I remember the day when I honestly, and I don't think I've ever told this to your face, but I actually remember when we were doing Margaret's deal, one of the first deals that you and I did together, right, a few years ago.
Right.
I thought you were going to fall out of your chair when we were at the lawyer's office, and I took out a legal notepad and said to her, "Can you write us a success story on how it was like to work with us?" Right?
Did I have a strange reaction? Did my eyes bug out of my head? I don't remember.
I don't remember what the strange reaction was, but I felt like,
oh my surprised.
God. Yeah, oh my God, I can't believe he's doing that. And the lawyer's office.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Oh yeah," and she wrote a page and a half.
Yeah, she did.
Right?
Yeah.
So success stories will do it too.
Yeah.
Pay attention to what I'm saying. What language am I using? What did I just say will do it, Peter?
Success stories.
Oh, so the word stories in there. It's the Dr. Seuss method. It's Dr. Seuss method. It doesn't have to be your story. It could be somebody else's.
Bill, it's so much better if it's somebody else's, don't you think? Because nowadays people look, I do it now, reviews. You want to buy something, how do you know it's any good? Reviews. See what someone else, 100 other people say. This thing has 3,000 reviews and it's 4.7. Okay, this one has 2 reviews. Who knows? So yeah, reviews, success stories. People really trust that nowadays. They trust each other.
Based on what you're saying on the reviews, I get that, but I want to take it one step further, and then we'll move on to number 8.
Yeah.
The better the reviews can perform a demonstration of the product or the service being proposed, the better it is.
Right.
So what you're trying to do is you're trying to use the Dr. Seuss method, which I should have wrote in there and I didn't think of it till just now. You're actually trying to demonstrate the functionality of the idea.
Right. As opposed to I have reviews that are like 5-star, not a word said. Say something. Right. And I'm looking at nursing homes right now, and it says, okay, you want to hear something, politeness and care. You want to hear how they are so you can visualize what it'll be like. So I get what you're saying.
So let's take that one step further, and then we'll knock off this. So the reviews are not believable as a review.
Mm-hmm.
What makes reviews believable is the culmination or the accumulation of the reviews. So if you have 10 people saying he was nice, then it becomes real. If one person says it, it's like, yeah, he could have paid that guy.
Exactly.
Right? So you want the demonstration of the reviews to demonstrate that that's true.
Yeah.
Like with my reviews, if you go onto my testimonial page on Flipping Houses for Rookies, there's a lot of them there, and you'll see the same story over and over again. I'm honest. I give a lot of content. I give a lot away for free. I really want to help investors invest. You read them in people's own words, the same thing over and over and over again. So you think to yourself after reading 4 or 5, a dozen, 5 dozen, depending on your skepticalness, right? You read the same thing over and over again, and you start to see Well, I couldn't have manipulated all those people. It must be true.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Number 8. This is for you, Peter.
Uh-oh.
The Pope method.
Pope.
Building trust quickly could be difficult and take a long time unless you know this. Because I've been in sales for 40 years, and until I figured this out, it was a moving target, and it was constantly chasing. I was totally reactive, not proactive, until I learned this. And I never read this anywhere. I just figured this out on my own.
Right? Oh. This is an original, folks.
This is a Billism. The quickest way to build trust is to have your actions match your words. I always leave the seller with 2 or 3 things to do. Like if you're going to go do a discovery thing, a discovery session or a discovery meeting, make sure you leave them a couple things to do, as well as tell them the couple things that you're going to do.
Yeah.
So when you go back and meet with them again, you go over a progress report. How did you make out? Oh, this is what I figured out. Now you know what type of person you have. Trustworthy or not. If you're going to be doing deals, and I know this has happened to you because there was a couple times, and I don't remember the guy's name. It was a house in Newington, but I think you wanted to do the deal. And I have to tell you, folks, my buddy Pete is here this long because he is amazing with granting me who I am. I mean, for example, just 2 days ago, I'm negotiating a 3-family house that we're selling that we put on the market for $220, which, by the way, I appraised it when I bought it for $180.
Yep.
The offer comes in at $198, and I tell them no.
What an asshole.
It's $200. It's $200. Tell the seller that I'm as stubborn as he is, and he's got to pay $200. Otherwise, take a hike. But Peter doesn't attack me for that. He allows me to be who I am. He'll ask questions. He'll poke around, and he'll try to be polite about it. But at the end of the day, he understands that's my job. And he trusts me.
Yep. It's scary sometimes, folks.
You want to read the text that she sent at 9:00 last night?
Yep.
This is the realtor. So just read it because we can.
Okay. Where'd she go? Okay, it's like, hi guys, 200,000, waiting for the buyer to sign. Smile.
There you go. Because what I told the realtor was, listen, go back and tell him, because he's being stubborn, because it's like a duplex. It's a 3-family on one side and a 3-family on the right side. It's all on the same roof line. It's not an over-under. It's not a stackable house. It's a left to right. So there's 1 bedroom, a 2-bedroom, and a 3-bedroom apartment. In the center is the 1 bedroom or in the center is a 3, then it goes 2, and it goes 1 the further out it goes. So it's all in one. So what she tried to do is she tried to sell the 6-family with 2 separate owners because there was somebody that offered $400,000 for both mine and the sellers.
People were asking, can I buy all of them? All 6. So she was trying that for a while.
So she went and spoke to the owner next to us that we don't know. And he's like, he wants $220,000 for his unit. And he was stuck on that. He was stubborn.
Yeah.
Tell the guy for $400, he's got to pay $240 for mine. I don't care what the guy next door does, but I want $240, or otherwise I'm not selling because I don't want to sell. I need to save these for my grandkids. That's what he's saying, right? Somehow or another, she convinced him that he should buy, or he decided he should buy our unit and turn his portfolio into a 6 unit, just like this other guy was going to do. So I think this other buyer gave him an idea.
Yep.
So I said to the realtor, well, I don't understand. his unit, which I got from Peter, it was Peter's idea. His unit is worth 220. He won't sell for anything less than that. What makes my unit that's exactly like his, in fact, I think in better shape than his, worth 200? He came back at 190. Yeah. Well, he's just trying to make money. Well, boo-hoo.
So we,
right?
And we knew his numbers, so it was hard to play a game with us because we knew the numbers. She told us.
So I point blank said to her, listen, here's the deal. I'm sorry you're in the middle, but it's ego. It's not money. I want to win. Tell him it's 200. If he comes back to you and says, I don't think I want to do that, I'm stuck at 198, you tell him, I'll tell you what, let's write a contract at 198 and let me see what I can do. And then I'll make you a hero by taking the 198. But I want to take one more swing at this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we did.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why am I fighting for $2,000? Because it's $2,000. It's $2,000 less that I have to pay her just by flapping my lips and having some balls.
Yeah.
Right? And we don't have the contract yet. Who knows? But the story is worth telling.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Good job, Bill.
Thanks. Number 9, deflating the balloon. Too many transactions have pressure in them. Sellers are anxious to sell. Investors are anxious to buy.
Mm-hmm.
Remove that pressure by being relaxed, not needy, and give the seller permission to say no, and you'll notice a difference in the deal. My standard is to tell them it is a numbers game for me. I can't buy every house that I look at or make an offer on. Even if I wanted to, I can't. It's just not natural. So if things don't work out between us, then we can just part as friends. But let's go as far as we can to see if it's beneficial to you and beneficial to me. And I'm willing to do that because it's the art of my game. Right? What I know is the more relaxed and unguarded the seller is, the more likely they will absorb your offer and let you help them.
I can just see them being reluctant, resistant, and not really listening that well, or listening from the viewpoint that they don't like it, they don't want to do it. And that's not a good point to have a conversation. So that's a good idea.
To your point, they're not absorbing the offer. They're looking for ways to put holes in it.
That's right. They're looking how to disagree instead of they're trying to be disagreeable. They start off that way.
So I deflate the balloon right on the phone. I take the pressure out of the deal. Like, look, man, I'm not coming there for high pressure sales. I'm not coming there to try to convince you to do something. I'm actually coming out to look at the property or to talk to you to see if this will work. I know I can't buy every property. And I'm cool with that. I gotta look at 5 properties or 8 properties before I buy one. So maybe yours is the one I buy, maybe it's not. In any event, it doesn't bother me. We could just part as friends because I love looking at property. Takes all the pressure out. Okay. Number 10. This is my favorite. And you've seen me do this so much. But now it's named.
Is this called Light My Cigar?
No. This is the Columbo Method. Columbo Method. Remember that show?
Yeah.
Back when we were boys, little boys. The disheveled detective finding out what was really going on, relying on just his pure observation. Here's how you do it. Once the seller feels they have what they want, I say, by the way, and I start over again. Remember Columbo used to do that? He'd be talking to somebody, he'd get to the door, and he would turn around and say, by the way.
Just one more question.
Yeah.
Just one more question.
What about, and he would do the by the way method, right? And then he would move into another section of his detective work.
Just when the guy thinks he's off the hook, he turns around and goes, pulls on the reel, and the hook goes in a little harder now.
Because what happened was, is you actually applied number 9, you took the pressure out, and he dropped his guard, and now he's going to tell you the real truth, right? So this isn't as profound as it sounds. It's just, it sounds that way for me to explain it. These are all natural things that you can do. Okay.
Well, I like when you're working with somebody, you might be pursuing an avenue, like maybe we can do this with the house or buy it such and such a way or whatever it is. And then well, no, I don't think that'll work. Oh, okay. Then you go, well, what if we did this? As if you just thought of it.
Yep.
So you're only dealing with one thing at a time. You exhaust a possibility. If it doesn't work out, okay, fine. Hey, what if, did you ever think of this? And you start up a note.
And you move on to the next offer. And always as if you just now thought it up. It's extremely effective.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does it work better if you pause and just think and just thumb your head a little bit and
there's a little theatrics on there.
Close your eyes and look up at the ceiling and
hum.
Yeah. Oh, here.
Number 11. We're going to go someplace we shouldn't with that one. Number 11, reverse gossip.
Reverse gossip.
Our society is full of contempt, jealousy, and putting competition down.
Yeah.
Reverse this. Praise competition. Like the realtor. Then use the Columbo method and do the by the way for a comparison. Because a comparison is the best sale ever. You want A or do you want B? I'll give you a classic example of that in our system. And I don't know if you or our listeners have gotten this, but what's the difference between a slot deal, which is a sandwich lease option transfer, and our number 3 method, which is a lease option, aka a rent to own? They're both sandwich lease option deals.
Yeah.
The difference is a slot deal, a sandwich lease option transfer, you're not staying in the deal. You're only getting your fee and you're leaving.
Yep.
When you do a rent to own or a sandwich lease option there, you're getting 15% worth of equity and 20 or 25% worth of cash flow. Okay, so you're staying in the deal. So that's a lot of rigmarole.
Yeah.
Let's shortcut it. A slot deal, the seller is going to, so you're going to give them the paperwork. They're going to get the lease buyer. They're going to get all the documents, and they are the landlord.
Yep.
A lease option deal, we are the landlord. We stay in for the 20 or 25%, and we get 15% worth of equity. So when I'm proposing a slot deal and a lease option, I will ask point blank, do you want to be the landlord or not? And if they say I'm willing to be the landlord, and I don't ask that question just as abrupt as I did there, but do you want to make more money and be the landlord, or are you willing to make a little less and not be the landlord?
Yeah.
And then I know which proposal to give to them. If they want to make more money and they don't mind being a landlord, then I give them the slot deal. If they're willing to take a little less money, then I talk about the lease option deal or the rent to own where I stay in the middle. And I tell them point blank, for me to be the landlord and put up with the aggravation and want to keep taking care of this property month after month, I need to make 15%. You need to give me, I tell them, you need to give me a minimum of 15% worth of equity and 20 or 25% of cash flow. If you don't, then you have to do the other one. So pick one. So the reason why I'm telling you all this in a long story, in a short story made long actually, is it's a comparison sale. It's a comparison decision.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we're going back to number 11, which is reverse the gossip. Right? So use your competition to make this comparative sale. Right? So another way to do it is with a realtor, it's going to cost you 12 to 15% in closing costs.
Mm-hmm.
Use the realtor to your advantage. And then you say, with us, it doesn't. Right?
Yep.
Clear?
Yeah.
Last one, number 12.
Oh, by the way, I just did that last night with one of my students who has a condo he lives in, and he's thinking of selling it and getting an actual house now. But it's like worth $200,000 and he owes $170 on the mortgage. So if he sells it conventionally, what's he got left with closing costs and all that? And he really hadn't,
maybe.
huh?
A few thousand, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. And he hadn't thought of that. He realized he wouldn't get the whole 30, but he thought he'd have something to put down. So I explained to him that, well, if you do it that way, closing costs, you know what they really are. Did you ever sell a house before? No, well, the actual closing costs are, oh, that makes sense. So you might not get very much at all, but there's this other way we use, and I gave him a 2-minute explanation that if you're interested, go look it up, ask me later. So he can compare, like doing a lease option himself and getting probably more money, or just not bothering. But it's a comparison, and I did that a little bit. And it's very natural. It's not like, gee, what would Bill do? Like, just compare it. So they go, well, right. Apples, oranges, here you go.
Exactly.
It's not that complicated.
All right, we got to end off here soon, so let's do number 12.
12.
The good waitress method.
Okay.
The key to making deals is persistence. The key to making deals is persistence. But you don't want to be overbearing.
Mm-hmm.
A great waitress will only be there when you need her.
Yeah.
And checking in every now and then to make sure you have what you need.
Mm-hmm.
And this brings value to a seller when you do this for them. As Dan Kennedy says, the great Dan Kennedy says, going from an annoying pest to a welcome guest is the best thing you can do.
Mm-hmm.
Persist, but don't annoy. This is the best pipeline you can get full of in your industry or in your career. Persist. So have all these deals and just persist, but don't annoy. Be like the waitress. I'm just checking in.
Mm-hmm.
Did you sell your house?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like I left a message with a customer yesterday because I was on the phones, and he told me that he wanted to meet after the holidays because his wife was ill and had just come out of an operation. His phone went right to voicemail. Mm-hmm. So my message was, geez, I'm calling for 2 reasons. The first is I want to know how your wife is doing.
Mm-hmm.
Is she okay? Your phone is off, so I hope everything's okay.
Yeah.
And second, you said you wanted to show me the house after the first of the year. If something's going on with her, I totally understand, but just text me or call me and let me know so I'm not a pest.
Yeah.
Right?
Good. So you actually explained everything. People don't know how to talk too well. Sorry, folks, it's blunt, but I watch people all the time, and sometimes they just don't explain themselves. And what you just said was really what was going on in that situation. And what you're thinking in your head, why not say it?
Right.
Short, say it to people. You'll be so much better understood what you're thinking. Just let it out. That was good.
Here we go. Time changes everything. Mm. Be a welcome guest, and there when things change and deals will fall in your lap mm-hmm. from the sky.
Mm-hmm.
In my business, 34 to 36% of my deals come from follow-up, especially done this exact way.
Yeah. True that. True that.
So time changes everything. So fill that pipeline.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of like my analogy of, I remember when I was working for a consulting company, traveling 40 weeks a year, and I would talk to, auto repair shops about consulting. We'd be out west, And these guys would have these shops in Arizona in the desert, and they'd have 100 people in their area. That was the whole city.
100, oh, Jesus.
Or 100 houses, or 500 people, whatever. These small cities, right?
We're not used to that around here where we are in Connecticut. This is
No.
people are just right next to my house.
Hell, I've been in the grocery store and had more than 100 people in it. So the point is this. I would tell this story like, so you have a plumber in your city, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's got 100 people to talk to because there's only 100 people in the city.
Yeah.
Right? Just as an analogy, and I'm not being literal here, right? So what do? You advertise, I can fix your drip or unclog your drain.
Mm-hmm.
So how many people in a week are you going to need? 1, maybe 2, 5 on a good week? How many people are you going to talk to?
Well, they're going to call anyways if the damn thing drips. If they need you, they're going to call anyhow.
So why not take the proactive route and say, you know what? I'm going to talk to all 100 every single week or every single month. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give them tips on like how to take care of their hot water heaters so they don't need a plumber.
Yeah.
And how they could take care of their faucets so they don't need a plumber. And how they can do this and how they can do that so they don't need a plumber. But now you're going to talk to 100 of them every single week or every single month, and they're going to know who you are. This is just like the pipeline I'm talking about with sellers. You're going to keep talking to them so they know who you are. So what do you think is going to happen with the plumber when all of a sudden there is a drip?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I need to call. He helped me so much. It's the law of reciprocity, right? He helped me so much because he taught me how to fix the hot water heater, and he taught me how to fix the boiler, and I fixed the drain on my air conditioner, and he helped me so much, I got to call him.
Yep.
Right. So the last thing I want to say, not as a punchline, but the last thing I want to say, how many times, and I know the answer because it's every single time I leave a house, you've heard me say this.
Mm-hmm.
Two things. One, I don't do as much as I should, but the other one I do every call. Call me if you need anything. Even if I don't buy the house, I will help you with the transaction, and you can use my resources or my experience, and I will gladly help you.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why. Because I want to keep my pipeline. What's that?
The weird thing is you actually do that, not just for your pipeline. You'll actually help them whether it's a pipeline or not.
Yeah. Like for example, they owe taxes and they don't know how to deal with it. And I'll be like, well, I got like one girl. I remember I bought a house in Waterbury. I said to her, the house is worth $100,000, $90,000. It was worth $100,000. She owed like $17,000. So I said to her, why don't you just get another mortgage? I'll help you. I'll just help you get another mortgage. You don't need me. The taxes was like $7,000. Let's just get you another mortgage and make it about the same amount of money that you're paying now. And you could. So we did that for a couple of weeks, like 2 or 3 weeks. And she got frustrated and she's like, no, you helped me a lot. And I'm just going to sell. So I think I paid like $33,000 or $34,000 for the house. And I sold it for $90,000.
Yeah.
Right. But that's because I was there and I was just helping her. I wasn't expecting that. It just happened.
No, like you said before, you don't always know how it's going to happen. But just keep moving forward, keep helping people, keep making the calls, keep talking to people, and something will happen.
Right. The second thing that I do when I leave a house is ask, do you know anybody else that I can help?
And that's how we got the Margaret house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is there anybody else, especially, and if you're doing the cost to sell worksheet, which is not found easily in my stuff because I kind of keep it on wraps for my coaching clients. But if you're doing the cost to sell, which I've explained to you, and you can make your own sheet, but if you're going in the house and you're telling a seller how much it's going to cost for them to sell their house before they set their price, unlike, and this is the comparison, which I was talking about earlier, unlike what the realtor does, the realtor sets the price, doesn't even know what they owe. Up until a few years ago, they would have you sign a contract with them and not even know if your name was on the deed or if you were capable of selling the house. Up until a few years ago, the only smart realtors did that. They didn't ask for any evidence that you own the house.
So what happens when there's a contract and it can't work? Does it just?
It's a good question. It's exactly what you think. It's exactly what you think.
Nothing can happen, right?
So now this realtor does all this work, finds a buyer, does all the transactions, and they get to the end and they're like, oops. Oh, by the way, my mother owns the house and she passed away last month, but I got a power of attorney. I'm ready to go. Well, power of attorney doesn't do it anymore. You got to go to probate court. So now the realtor all of a sudden is stuck in this transaction that needs 3 months to go to probate court.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't even know it because they didn't check it out. So when you tell your seller, I can do a cost to sell with you, and we could figure out how much it's going to cost you to sell, how much you owe, then we set the price. That's a tremendous service. That is customer service to the ultimate. And they will, and you know this because you're in houses, they appreciate that you help them with that simple little tool of explaining the cost to sell before they set their price.
They're actually shocked that no one else did so.
Right.
Why didn't the realtor tell me? Why did nobody tell me this?
So when you're leaving the house, this is when you say to them, is there anybody else that you know that might be selling a house that I can talk to them like I talked to you today and help them?
Mm-hmm.
And it works.
Yep.
All right, Peter, let's get out of here. Thank you, everybody, for listening to me and Peter today. We really appreciate it. I didn't do any of my housework type things in the beginning of the podcast because I forgot. I didn't write it down. But realize wherever you're listening to us or have found this podcast, in the description, there's a link that will take you to our free stuff page. We have 25 or 26 different things you can get. There's scripts, there's forms, there's checklists, there's videos, all kinds of stuff that will help you with creative real estate stuff, creative real estate deals, and you can go there and get them. You're welcome, George. The other thing is, go give us a review, please. If you're whatever platform you're listening to us on, please give us a review. If you're in Facebook or in YouTube, please leave a comment underneath the section where you're listening to us or watching us so that we get some social juice there. Also, subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to us on a podcast, subscribe to the channel so when we get a new podcast that comes out to you, we do them once a week. We've been doing it now. This is our 235th week, give or take. We've taken a few weeks off here and there, but thanks to Peter. Peter is a huge part of this because he's very reliable. I mean, every Thursday morning, we could not talk to one another for a week, and I could text him on Thursday morning and say, "You ready?" He's like, "Give me a couple minutes. I'm here, just setting up." He's just very reliable and very helpful. Last thing I want to say is, obviously, subscribe and all that kind of stuff. But the last thing I wanted to say is, and I forgot what it was. Oh my goodness.
Leave a review.
Leave a review. I said that already. Anyway, the last thing I want to say is every single week, Thursday mornings, 9:30, give or take, Eastern Standard Time, we live stream when we record the podcast, which is an audio recording. We live stream on Facebook and on YouTube, and I have a big screen in front of us. Thank you, Emma, for doing that for Peter and I. And I can see your comments. So when I'm talking to people during the podcast, it's because they are on Facebook and or YouTube, leaving comments and asking me questions on there, and I will answer them live if I can, especially if it's pertaining to the podcast. Sometimes I'll actually put them right on the screen so you can see them. But if you wanted to go be part of the conversation while we're recording, you go to either Facebook and look up Flipping Houses for Rookies, or go to YouTube and look up Flipping Houses for Rookies, and there is a page there. If you go to the free stuff page and just put your name and email address in any one of those products, you can get on my email list, and I send an email out every single day, often with crazy things. I mean, Peter, I did some crazy shit this last week. Christmas week. Oh my God. Oh my God. I did some crazy shit. My paperwork package is like $2 or $3 grand. I think it's $2 grand for all my paperwork for all the creative real estate deals. Yeah. And I for one day, because I was out and it was Christmas morning, Christmas Eve. Last minute, I decided I wanted to go buy Pamela, my wife, some jewelry. God knows why I wanted to do that. So I went to the jewelry store and stopped to see my grandson, and I was all Christmased out. And I came home and I'm like, I'm supposed to be working. And I'm like, what am I going to? Oh, okay. And I sent an email to my list for 24 hours which was Christmas. Okay. Saying you can buy that paperwork for 75% off.
You are crazy.
Yeah. So those emails have a lot of goodies inside. Sometimes I promote them on the subject column. Sometimes they're just at the bottom of the page. There's just a link there with some surprise. So there you go. With that said, we're over and out. See you next week. Have a great week. If you have any questions about this podcast or any questions about real estate, go to flippinghousesforrookies.com. Top right-hand side is a support button. Those tickets come right to me. I personally answer them multiple times a day. So if you have any questions, just go there. Okay. Till then, go make an offer. If you don't make an offer, you won't get paid. So go make an offer. No, it's more like an offer made will get you paid.
Oh, okay.
All right, guys. See you later.